First time to India?
Yeah, first time. First 48 hours and I'm already here.
So how easy it is to start business in London? Oh, really?
Yeah, building a business in London, in the UK is very easy.
Tell that these are a few tenets which are good to be a founder.
Being a founder is not for everyone. But first, you need to be very ambitious. You need to believe things that others don't believe.
How easy was it in London? Raising investments?
Raising funds in London, it's probably one of the best places in Europe because...
Love, power, money. What excites you more?
Definitely love.
What are the few things that you want to look in a candidate before hiring them?
So I'll say the first one for me is I only like to work with hungry people.
And what's the process of fundraising for you when you're a company in London?
You have more than enough investors in Europe to be able to close a successful round.
How much did you raise in your first round?
First round we raised...
How are you finding India, by the way?
I'm loving it. It's insane that you guys have a park and then in the middle of the park you have like ancient monuments. And I saw all these like Indian couples having these romantic moments in the evening. So I was like, wow.
Guys, welcome to another electrifying episode of the Akash Gupta Show, powered by 100 Unicorns, our new sponsor. India ke one of the top accelerators focusing on early stage startups. Backed by Venture Catalyst, a global startup accelerator. अब सभी startups के लिए एक बहुत ही काम की बात. ये अपने fund 1 से अभी तक 145 startups में $100 million का investment कर चुके हैं. In industries like fintech, edtech, Web3 and deep tech. Some of their portfolio firms are Videoverse, Zingbus, Snapmint, TrueNative, BlueSmart, and even आपका अपना Zip Electric. And now they are on to their second fund where they are looking to invest $200 million in 200 startups this time in sectors like D2C, Agritech, SaaS, and fintech. So if you are a startup and you're looking for funding, then you know who to reach out to. कैसे हो दोस्तों? इस पॉडकास्ट में सिर्फ यही सेक्शन हिंदी में मिलने वाला है क्योंकि आज आया है लंदन से मेरा एक दोस्त. इंटरेस्टिंगली मैं ये कंपेयर करना चाहता हूँ कि लंदन के स्टार्टअप्स वर्सेस इंडिया के स्टार्टअप्स में क्या फ़र्क होता है, इनकी जर्नी कितनी टफ होती है, क्या ये लोग भी इंडिया जैसे बिहेव करते हैं, इंडिया जैसे बनाते हैं या कुछ अलग होता है. तो आई थिंक यू नीड टू वॉच दिस पॉडकास्ट फॉर श्योर बिकॉज बाय द एंड यू विल बी सरप्राइज्ड व्हाट इज़ द आउटकम of this podcast. So आखिरी तक देखना, मजा आएगा. Great guys, so today is not an Indian podcast, it's almost like an international podcast because we have an amazing friend whom I met a few months back in Vegas, right? He's building an EV company. So this guy is Santi. Santi, welcome to the Akash Gupta Show.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you here, and this show is, by the way, powered by 100 Unicorns, which is one of the funds, right? They are one of our sponsors, right? So kudos to them. But I think, Santi, one thing which is interesting about you that you are a very, aggressive and fun-loving founder, right? Which is what we connected on. And the other thing which is interesting, you are building something in the EV space, right? But today's podcast, I want to center more about how startups are outside of India. You travel to US, you are from Europe, you're from Barcelona, and we are in India. So we want to compare a little bit about startup landscape. But before that, we would love to know about you. Why don't you talk about you? And I love his accent, by the way. So go for it.
Strong Spanish accent.
Yeah.
Well,
hola amigo, right?
Hola amigo.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's fun. I came for a few days of traveling and we were messaging. It's like, come by, I show you the office, and here we are doing a podcast.
But I'm so sorry that I could not meet you in Delhi and we could not travel around because it's messy, When I'm in Barcelona, you're not going to act like that.
Because come to see me and we're going to do a podcast as well.
Yeah, let's do that.
But yeah, thanks for having me. Okay, so let's talk about startups. Let's talk about business, how different it is here and there. But about myself, I'm Santi. I'm from Barcelona, as you mentioned. I've been now 10 years in the last mile to logistics tech industry. And I'm one of the co-founders of Papaya. Papaya Dash is a software platform that will help fleet operators to manage electric vehicles. And basically, we are trying to help any logistics business to support them on the electrification process. So moving away from petrol vans, as it's one of the biggest inputs for the pollution and in the climate crisis.
Right. So you are also, in terms of that, a champion of climate change.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to act, right? And that's why I was very happy when I saw Ikigai.
Yeah, I know. Ikigai, the plants, and EV.
I think, Papaya is my Ikigai. Like the company that we're building, we're trying to have an impact, and we're having fun building software. And it's about vehicles. What I love to ride vehicles. I'm actually going for a motorbike ride now in Leh, around the Himalayas, so very excited.
Yeah, awesome. This is first time to India?
Yeah, first time. First 48 hours and I'm already here. See?
Awesome. Good to know that. But how's life been, right? How did it start? What got you into entrepreneurship? How's been the childhood? What's your family into? A little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I born and raised in Barcelona, and then I had my dad is quite an entrepreneur. He had 3 restaurants, a cava factory. Cava is like champagne, but yeah, in this region of Barcelona. And I always helped him since early days. Then when I went to study, I studied business and technology, and yeah, it was just like I really like the combination between like being able to do business with technology and now adding an impact on it, right? Like leaving the world, leaving something into the world, having an impact, changing how things are working. And yeah, early on, when I was finishing my studies, I started like thinking what I'm gonna do. So I started interviewing for a few different companies, and one of them was PwC. Like
which one?
PwC, one of the big consultancies, right? And I did few interviews. I already almost got I got the job offer. I was walking around the office and everyone was on suits, pretty boring, sorry to say. And then suddenly, very randomly, my cousin was working for Deliveroo. I don't know if you know about Deliveroo. It's like Uber Eats or DoorDash in the States. And he was just like on the marketing department about to launch Barcelona. And he was like, hey, come by the office. You've been in the restaurant hospitality sector. You like tech. I think we're hiring an intern. I was like, okay, I'm going to come by. And I think that was the moment, like when I opened that door and I saw someone playing with a drone, like everyone wearing sneakers, like hoodies, and very relaxed vibe where everyone was super nice, incredible warm welcome. And yeah, it was not even into an interview process. I just visited my cousin. I ended up going out with a job offer. Wow. And I came back home and I told my dad, hey, like, I know you're very excited about PwC, but I'm a lot more excited about Deliveroo. It's like, about what? It's like Deliveroo. It's like, it's this startup that they are launching in Barcelona from the UK. And that's basically, he was like, I don't know what is this, but do whatever makes you happy. And yeah, I went for it. I joined my cousin in Deliveroo. And then after 6 months, they offered me to go to the HQ in London. So I joined in Barcelona. Wow. We launched Barcelona. Fun fact, I was dressing as a kangaroo every Friday because kangaroo was like the main logo, the main thing about Deliveroo, and we're like flyering on the streets.
You were doing that?
Yeah, with the whole office. It was like such a startup vibe. We were doing anything that we needed to do, right? And then after 6 months, they offered me to go to London, to the HQ. And for me, it was a great opportunity to learn English because at that point, I didn't know math.
You didn't?
Not at all. Wow. And I took the opportunity, the adventure, and I spent 4 years there. Moving from different teams like commercial strategy, corporate strategy, leading competitive intelligence, so understanding the competitors, and then going back to Spain as a head of growth. And then at that point, like, I think my startup journey started in Deliveroo. I had so much fun. Everyone was so nice, so smart. And you know, when you see success, like I started, we were like 90 people. I left that we were like 4,000.
Wow, 90 people when you joined them.
90 people when I joined overall. And then at that point, like after that, I was like, okay, I really like the 0 to 1, the creation stage of startups. And I built a very good relationship with the CEO of Deliveroo, and I asked him like, hey, what is good on like 0 to 1? Which startups are hot into the market? And he actually mentioned that he invested in another startup called Orchestro, an aggregator of the last mile, and I decided to give it a go and join there as like 3rd, 4th employee.
You joined them?
I joined them.
Wow.
And that was a tough journey. Like, okay. I was there for a year and a half, and We were a very hungry team, but very inexperienced. Inexperience. We did a lot of mistakes. We raised like good funds from like good investors, but we didn't do the best decision.
And you were a founding team member.
I was almost a founding thing, like fifth employee.
And you spent in Deliveroo how many years?
Around 3.5, 4 years.
3.5 in Deliveroo, and then you joined.
And then Orchestra, yeah. And then, yeah, that was a fun journey, very tough. In retrospective, when you look how it was, is where I learned the most, because you do all these mistakes. You are very empowered to do all these mistakes. But I decided to move on after 1.5 years, and then at that point is when 2 of my colleagues from Deliveroo, they started Dija, and that was a quick commerce company. Okay. So similar to Gorillas, Get Here,
Zepto and Blinkit.
Zip.
And Zip is powering them, by the way. Yeah.
Amazing. So very similar company in the UK. I was the first employee, so clearly funding team. Mm-hmm. And then within a week, we raised 20 million just with a deck, And the reality is that it was a big bubble about that industry. Every single venture capital in Europe was making a different bet because they thought that
this is the future.
Exactly. And yeah, it was a crazy journey. It was absolutely crazy journey. We raised 20 million in a week, and then 6 months after, I was leading there the logistics, the product, and 6 months after, we were 160 people. We launched 3 countries. We were turning over more than $1 million, and we got acquired by GoPuff, the American company.
Acquired?
Yeah.
Within
6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Positive exit.
Good exit.
You had stakes?
Still
yet to be vested.
Still to be vested. And yeah, that was all the fun. And then at GoPuff, at Dija, with that acquisition is where I had this sustainable fleet of more than 4,000 electric vehicles. GoPuff, and I was managing it. Oh. And it was so difficult, and that's the reason why I started Papaya, because I was okay, everyone is going to start using all these electric vehicles, and it's hard to manage because you have all these different service providers. I was that's an opportunity for a business. Mm-hmm. So I decided to when a big company acquire you, I like 0 to 1. I like when we were 20 people, suddenly we were 10,000 people. Right. And then it was time for me to start my journey as a founder. Wow. And it's been now 2.5 years.
That's amazing. So 2.5 years, Papaya is 2.5 years old now. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Now, I just want to ask a very basic question that, your dad was an entrepreneur, right? He was doing a couple of businesses. Never thought of joining them?
Yes, I always help him. Okay. And we actually started some kind of small experiment business together. It was good fun. It was great. But I think that, I wanted to be a lot more techy. He always focused so much on the hospitality sector, so service sector, and I wanted to add an element of tech on it.
Are you from the background of coding also, or software also?
A little bit. So on my university, I did a little bit of coding. I did 1 year of engineering of telecommunication. It was too hard. You know how much I like the social life and having fun with friends. Yeah. So I did 1 year. I decided I want to have a life. So I'm going to leave this for the very smart people. And I decided to move into a more business tech degree.
Oh, nice. That's great. And so 2.5 years of Papaya. And that GoPuff journey was about 6 months.
A little bit more in total. 6 months was the acquisition, and then I got involved in these integration processes.
So about 6 years of work before startup?
Yeah, a little bit more, around 8, 9. Because I did some consultancy as well for some fleet operators.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of a solo entrepreneur.
Nice. Like a consulting.
Yeah. And
then you got it.
I used to help fleets and in Orchestra, and then I was okay, I'm going to help them outside of Orchestra as well. Wow. And I was doing some consultancy on operations, growth for fleet management.
Very interesting, because you found your idea as part of your journey.
Absolutely.
Right? There was nothing as a kid that I would want to do this. It just came out of problems.
And that was one of the best advice that the founder of Deliveroo gave me, Will Shu. He was Santi, he always saw me very ambitious, right? And he was Santi, don't try to build a business for the sake of building a business. You really need to fall in love with a problem, because it's going to be so tough, the journey, that if you're not in love with that problem, you will quit. Yeah. And that's the reality that for me, I'm very lucky. It happened very organically. And as I told you, it's my ikigai, because it comes combines tech, vehicles, and having an impact.
So nice to know that. What have been the early challenges of building a business? And your business is based in Barcelona, right?
We're based in London.
You're now based in London, okay?
We're based in London, yeah.
And you also now live in London.
I live in London, yeah.
So how easy it is to start business in London?
It's pretty easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, building a business in London, in the UK, is very easy.
Tell me about it. Can you put like a few steps there?
Yeah, you go to a website and you register a form and you pay £12 and you have a company.
Really?
Yeah, literally. I come from Barcelona, from Spain, and there you need like lawyers and you need to make all this investment. But in the UK, it's so simple, right?
All in a day?
Yeah, in a few hours.
In a few hours?
You can register a company in a few hours, but that's just registering a company, and you know that registering a company is not building a business. But it helps you to get started very, very...
Oh, that's amazing, because I think when you talk about ease of doing business, which is a project which is happening in India, I think it still takes a lot more time. But this is amazing to know that you can do that in a few hours in London.
There is so many facilities in the UK to start a business. Like even for when you're looking for early investment, you have not much, right? Yeah. So there is even an incentive scheme for like investors, for anyone, that it's called EIS. And basically it allows anyone to do like small angel tickets, like up to 1.5 million. Yeah. And they get, I think, 40% or 30% back on taxes of that investment, right? And then when you start your journey as a fundraising and you start speaking with different angel investors, that makes things very easy because it reduces the risk of these angel investors. Wow.
So can you repeat that? So anyone who's investing, so there's a platform, EIS is a platform?
It's a scheme, yeah.
It's a scheme?
Yeah.
It's a bank? No.
No, it's from the government.
It's a government scheme.
It's a government scheme. It's called EIS or SEIS, and basically you don't need to do anything. Yeah, you just speak with different angel investors.
And there's a list of people that you approach?
Anyone, like if I do an investment, I can qualify my investment for EIS, and then I can claim back like 30%. I think I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around 30%.
Oh, you can claim back as
for taxes. Wow. And then when I do my annual return, that investment I already I get discounted 30% of the taxes.
That's amazing, because in India there's a conversation happening on angel tax, which means people who are putting money in startups, they were just worried about more taxes there. I think government has relaxed that. But this is amazing that you get an incentive to invest in startups.
Exactly. The company, the startup, needs to do an application to HMRC, that is the main government that helps or that manage all the different taxes. But once you have that application, actually, when you speak with investors in the UK, early on the angel investors, they ask you, do you have the EIS scheme? Yeah. And then if you have the EIS scheme, they don't think much.
It's a de facto, right? Because it's a tax saving scheme.
To make that investment.
And if I like you, I invest in you, then money will make and I save on taxes.
You know that you're already it's the risk in your investment. You know that you have 30% of the money back, right? And let's see if
But is it only because you are into EV? Or is it just generally?
For any startup.
It's for anything.
For any startup. Then you have a lot of grants for impact, for sustainability, for EVs as well.
So how did you build the first team? Do you have co-founders?
I have one co-founder.
How did you find him?
I used to work with him at Deliveroo.
Okay.
Yeah. So we never worked in the same team, but we were hanging out a lot in the pub after work, and we built a good friendship. And yeah, he had high reputation at Deliveroo as one of the best engineers. So when I left, actually, it was interesting because I left Deliveroo 3 years before I started Papaya, but we kept in touch. We kept having quarterly calls, and just very friendly call. Hey, how is it going? What are you working on? Are you thinking to build something? Because he was also a very entrepreneur, or bouncing ideas. But this was during 3 years, pretty recurring.
3 years and about 3,000 beers.
Exactly.
Knowing you. Yeah.
But a lot of fun as well. And then when I had the idea of Papaya, he was the first person that I immediately thought about it. So I prepared pretty well. I invited him a beer. Then we went for a nice steak because I know that he loved meat. And as soon as I pitched the idea, it took him the same day. He said I'm in. Yeah. Then we started. Maybe I tell you about the early days because it was pretty.
Please, would love to.
Yeah. So basically, when I was at GoPuff and Disha, I knew that was I was struggling to manage the fleet. We were overspending so much on vehicles. We didn't have the right reporting. So I started speaking with a fleet manager on a weekly basis. It's like, tell me more. So I really focus on the problem, right? Like, what is the pain points? And then I started thinking, like, can we solve this? And the answer was yes. And then I started thinking, there is more people with the same problem? And the answer was yes as well. So basically, when I quit, I started working with Renato, and basically all that we've done is we didn't build any tech. We built just a front end that was kind of like faking what the product was going to be, like a Figma file, like a prototype, the typical one. I asked him to make sure that if we could have like 4 buttons.
Yeah, they should work.
Exactly. And then I started, like, I knew that GoPuff will buy. So I started speaking with all the different players into the industry, having meeting with them, and I validated that they had the same problem. And then I was demoing that front end, that Figma file.
Nice.
And I could do like 4 actions, right? Like I was risking that they were asking, oh, what happens if you click there? Nothing. But with those four buttons, like the people was like, oh, I was asking them, if I build this for you, if I give this to you, will you pay for it? And they were validating it. So basically I think it was 3 weeks, we built the first MVP. We went from like the prototype to building a backend and like making it work. And yeah, we signed our like 2-3 customers. Wow. And it was crazy. Early days, like meeting that I was having, meeting that I was closing, and then we started onboarding like customers. And then I think that was 2 months after. That was just me and my co-founder.
2 of you using a Figma file to pitch to investors. Yeah. Wow. No, the customers.
Yeah.
You didn't approach investors then?
Not at all. At that point, I was like, why do we need investors? Let's fix a problem, right? I actually see investor and money and investment as an input, not as an output. So I basically approach investment when I need money to scale something. But at that point, we're validating. Sure. But then, yeah, like, it was fun because it was just the 2 of us. Then I met another software engineer. We got him on board. We convinced him in terms of like, hey, can you work until we get investment, and then we pay you, but we give you some equity, and it worked, right? And the guy was like, he joined us on full like trust, and that's the type of like people that we like hungry people that believe on it. And then yeah, within like I think it was 3 months is when we had already like 2 customers, and I said like, okay, let's go for some investment. And then the whole investment journey started, but it was fun.
Wow. And how many people you guys were then?
Just 3. The 2 co-founders and this guy waiting for us to close money to get paid.
And any revenues then?
Yeah, we were very low. We were like making 5K a month. Like, yeah.
Okay. And how was investing or raising investments, how easy was it in London? Because London, to be very frank, is a lot of EV investment. Sustainability is what the thesis looks, ESG. When you enter the airport, I saw an elephant, walking in the jungle in a picture that, hey, we are sustainability. Is it easy to raise money out there? Or is it tough? How what's the process like?
I mean, when I started, it was 2022. So that was the end of the golden era, right?
Start of the funding winter.
So I was lucky that I just catch the golden era just at the end. But I'll say that raising funds in London, it's probably one of the best places in Europe, because I think everyone knows that raising funds in the US is pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but like is accessible, right? But in London, I will say that in Europe is the best place to raise funds, because you have all the different venture capital funds that they are competing with the deals. They respect the founder. And I come from Spain. I have founder friends in Spain, and it's interesting what's the dynamics between investors and founders in Spain versus in London. So yeah, in London, again, I wouldn't say it was super easy, but it was pretty accessible. And for me, it was very organic. Like from my journey on startups, when you are very early on, you build relationships with investors, right? Because you are 4 or 5 people on the team, and you need to go to board meetings, or you need to like present things to them, because it's very, very early days. So I had already like, I'll say 5 to 10 contacts, but everything changed when I met someone called Carmen, the founder of Cocoa. Cocoa is a microfund. And basically I went and she was like, let's go for a coffee. I was like, I put my shirt. I never wear a shirt. I always go with a hoodie or like a t-shirt. And I put my shirt. I met her in a cafeteria. I was like, wow, my first meeting with an investor. And she came with her yoga pants, late for like 15 minutes. I was like, okay, that's a good start. And then I pitched my business to her. I was like, look, we're here. We're thinking to raise some angel investment. I want a little bit of a lifestyle investment business. And then she was like, no, you don't. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, you don't want a lifestyle investment, a lifestyle business. It's like, yeah, I do. It's like, no, you don't. You have a lot more ambition than a lifestyle business. I was like, okay. It's like, let's do something. Take this deck that you show me today, think big, and then we meet in a week or 2 weeks, and you show it to me again.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And then she left. And my co-founder called me, was like, how was the meeting? I was like, I don't know. I don't know how this went, like I did my pitch. I was prepared for something, but she basically told me that we don't want what we have and that we need to think big. So I said, like, okay, challenge accepted. We rebuilt the pitch. We thought on a big vision. And actually is when we moved a little bit from having like a small tool to help fleet managers like GoPuff to build the vision, because I think Carmen triggered me that moment of like, dream big,
Think big, dream big.
Yeah, exactly. And then we decided a vision, and we decided like, okay, well, let's dream. Like, what do we think that this can be?
Sure.
And it was very different from in a week from that first deck to then like the second deck. I presented her like a vision, like a road to that vision, like high ambition. And yeah, like the second meeting, I meet her with a new deck, and I just present her the deck, and she told me like, now you're ready. I'm going to invest on you, and I'm going to help you to raise funds, because I never raised money before. I was a first-time founder. I never did fundraising. It's like, okay, I don't know where to start. It's like, you don't need to know.
Wow.
Like, I'm going to tell you, these are the different steps. You will go into an intro meeting, then you're going to have like, you need to just think about getting a partner on the next call. Then you're going to go into the partner, and you just need to think about getting into an IC. And then you're going to go to an IC, and you just need a term sheet. And then when you have one term sheet, we'll talk about what do we do to show this term sheet to the whole market. And I was like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but let's do it. Yeah. And she basically like introduced me to all the funds, and I was going from 1 to 2 to 3, and in 2 weeks we got 7 term sheets.
That's amazing. And she didn't invest?
She did invest. She told me like, I'm going to invest only if you won. But my value is to help you to go through.
Oh, she was like a banker.
No. She's a microfund. Yeah, she's a BC. Wow. But her value proposition is that she's on your side, on the founder side, and she helps you to go through the process. She shows you her value, and then you decide if you want to have her or not. Wow. Of course, like she already committed that she will invest.
She gave you a term sheet?
She only follows.
Follows.
Yeah. So she since the beginning said like, I'm gonna invest the small amounts that I do. Wow. But yeah, she helps you to get a term sheet.
That's amazing. Yeah. And you have, I'm just wanting to ask that, is there a commercial arrangement between this? Just if I might ask. Will she take some success fee kind of concept?
No.
Wow, this is all as a venture builder in that sense.
Her main value proposition as a venture builder is to help the founder to do the first fundraising process and to understand what are the dynamics, right? Like it's interesting because it's having someone from the other side in your side.
Which is what she did to you. Think big. Vision exercise.
Absolutely. That's amazing. It's like, hey, we care about like the 3 things that a pre-seed investor care is about like the founder. Correct. Like probably that's 80%. Correct. Is there a big enough market? Yeah. And is this like, why do you have the right to play in that market? Truth. Like, why do you have something different? So she said like, focus on these 3 things. Let's tell story. Of course, she helped me. She helped me to like build the deck and everything. Wow. But thanks to her, I'm here in a way.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Carmen.
And how much did you raise, if I might ask, in your first round?
In our first round, we raised 3 million pounds.
Okay, you call it seed?
Say it again?
You call it a seed?
It was a pre-seed.
It was a pre-seed round.
Yeah. We started big.
And you're raising another one after that, or you raised more after that?
Yeah, we are about to close something at the moment.
That's lovely. I can see the smile, which is great. So how's the business been after that, right? How many people now in the team?
We are around 16 people at the moment.
16?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah. We're trying to keep it small. Like, we don't do ops, like I come from the ops side and I promised to myself that I will do like just software, tech. I love ops though. I miss it every day. But it's a more light company, right? Like
There's 16 people, man.
yeah, building software, but our peak we were like around 19, and then now like we really built some efficiencies and we're like on the 16s. The majority are engineers, and we invest a lot on quality of employees, on like talent, and engineers in London are very expensive.
Correct, I know. No, great. And what are your tenets of building a team, right? Any thoughts that you've learned as a founder? What are the three things that, or few things that you want to look in a candidate before hiring them?
Good question. So I'll say the first one for me is I only like to work with hungry people, like people that has high ambitions, that passionate about like that they care, right? Like I always say in my interviews process, like this needs to work in both sides. If you don't feel in love around like our mission and removing like the petrol bans from the street, this is not for you because it's going to be tough. So the first one is like this hungry, this passion. The second one is self-awareness. Like for me, this is a must. If you're not self-aware, and I have different methodologies to be able to test if someone is self-aware or not, but self-awareness for me is the number one thing that helps people grow and like employees grow. And then the last one is that they also value like having fun. That's very important for us, like starting a startup is a journey from A to B, where B has three outputs, right? Like you can fail and learn so much. You can go IPO. Yeah. And I don't even know what that means. And you can sell your company, right? And make a lot of money while you learn probably the best kind of outcome. Right. And for me, the outcome, it matters less. It's about the journey from A to B. And I think if you have these people that is like hungry, passionate, very self-aware, so they can continue improving and they like to have fun, you will have fun as a group, and you'll enjoy the journey.
Yeah, very interesting, the three tenets that you talked about. One is obviously self-aware, right? One is your hunger, and third is fun. How do you test all three in an interview, man?
You're asking me to give away.
I know, obviously. Oh, that's why I make people sit on the podcast, man.
I see.
Yeah. No, I'd love to know, and I think a lot of people can learn from this.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting me on the spot, but
still, just a few ways.
Yeah, I think the self-aware one is one that is like you can have few tricks, right? And I ask few questions that always like in third kind of like person, something like, okay, Akash, like if I speak with your best friend, what they will tell me that they don't like about you, or stuff like this, and then immediately it's like, and what do you think about that? And so these are like small tricky questions that you get there. On the having fun, it's more like what I perceive on those interviews, and of course like understanding a little bit more about their hobbies and more like how they perceive work as well. What is work for them? It's always an interesting way to find it. And then on the passion and hungriness, I think that's very much, you see it very quickly.
Yeah, on basically their achievements and whatever they've done.
Or even like in the way how they behave in their interview, right? Like what's the energy levels? Like is this person just like here because they need to be here, or they would love to work with you? Yeah. And I try to hire in that way with people that they will love to work with me. Yeah. And people that when I leave a call and I'm like, I love to work with this person, then I make it an offer.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. And that's very interesting, by the way you do, right?
What are your three tenets? I'm interested now. What are your three tenets?
See, the things that I typically ask in candidates, one, I definitely ask them that, when was the time when you had the hardest time in life? That typically gives me a direction, right? What do they call as hard, right? That's one. And how did they behave in that? That's one thing that gives me a perspective. The second thing that I typically ask them is that, what has been their biggest achievement or, awards, if at all? Do they chase, exceptionalism? So something like that, I try to look at them. And the third thing essentially is that, are they living in this area? Fair enough. I don't want people to travel a lot, right? It should be nearby so that they are in a happy space, because in India, the traffic. Right?
Wow, I'm learning about it.
So three to three, man. Yeah. Great. And why do you think that electrification, your business is about enabling electrification in that sense, right? We are also in that sense enabling electrification while we are doing full bit because we understand that everything is broken and hence we are doing each and every piece ourselves to make it come together. And you've taken a path to just solve it via software, right? In fact, we've launched the first version of that recently. Let me tell you about that. And we should talk about that after this chat. But let me know that why do you think that it was so tough while you were solving it? Why electrification is tough?
It happened very organically to me. Like I was at GoPuff. We wanted to have a sustainable fleet, mainly for consumer perception. I'm not gonna lie. The second one, it also helped us with the noise on the micro fulfillment centers for the neighbors. And then the third one, like if you run it well, it can be even more affordable, right? But it's where the future is leading into. And the earlier you are on the adoption curve, the better. So that for me was very organic. My own experience of like, this is like where this is going, and I have an opportunity on this new wave of electrification. Then I think that's how we started, and then from here we started working with different other companies, not only these quick commerce companies, but a lot more like vehicle manufacturers, like OEMs, financing players, maintenance providers, and we keep seeing different gaps on that process of that electrification process, while then we're seeing like high pressure from governments that are pushing those tailwinds to electrify to the fleets. We're seeing like all these big fleets that are starting to commit to their boards about like net zero targets. So there is all this pressure that is building from one side, and there is all these gaps on the infrastructure and the services in the other side. And we believe that with our platform, with what we're doing, we're basically just helping all these different service providers, all these different immature market and fragmented market to interact within each other to be able to make that transition into electric vehicles more.
No, that's clear. That's clear that what you're solving for makes sense. But why do you think that people need something like this? Why can't they do this themselves?
Because it's about collaboration. Like, how do you interact with multiple players with your own software? Like, the main problem that we're building or that we're solving for, it's interoperability. What this means is that, I used to work with 15 different service providers, and every service provider, they were giving me their software. Very cool, very nice, but the reality is that I need to work with multiple service providers because one is giving me e-mopeds, one is giving me cargo bikes, one is giving me vans, one is giving me cars, one is giving to me in Spain, other one in France. And when you start getting the software of one, the software of the other one, you end up with 15 softwares, your riders around the street. It's like, okay, it's vehicle one, which software it was? Oh, that one. And then you need to consolidate all the data. So it's that fragmentation and that interoperability that is giving us that right to play. You can always build your own operational softwares, but as soon as you need to collaborate with other people, as soon as you need to interact with service providers, with maintenance providers, with your customers, with your fleets, there is a need of an agnostic player that basically acts as like this network for you to be efficient and to work with your partners. Because I love the concept of people that is trying to offer, like, I think what you guys are doing is a fantastic job, right? About offering a vertically integrated proposition, and it works very well for specific regions and a specific use case of like fleets that only use one vehicle type in specific cities that you can cover. But as soon as these fleets start to be so big that they use multiple vehicle types in multiple locations, is when you need to collaborate with other people.
So is IoT a big part of your entire offering?
Yeah, it's starting to get more and more. Like, basically we build it in a way that IoT is not required, but you can use the whole platform just interacting with QR codes, with tickets, with systems, but then IoT built a lot of automation. So you have IoT, you can start making the platform a lot smarter.
That's true. And the triggers can be built then, and actions can be built around.
Right? We know like every 80 miles or kilometers, like the brakes stop working. So why do we need to wait until they stop working if we can fix it before they work?
No, that's exactly what we do essentially. There are multiple fleet types, multiple OEMs, but we actually bring them all together using IoT, and hence everything becomes singular for us.
Amazing.
Right? In that sense.
Exactly. And you build everything internally to be able to build that efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, again, 7 years, right? So just nothing was existing, so we had to build it ourselves.
It's great, but there is a lot of other companies that they are trying to manage their fleet and they don't have the resources, neither like the capabilities to build that tech.
No, I'm sure that, and that's exactly what you're doing now, right? So you're now powering how many markets, how many fleets? Just share your numbers. Maybe another pitch deck and another term sheet is on the way.
See who wants to invest, right? I'm more interested on customers, so if there is any fleet manager listening to us, please reach out. But yeah, we are now, so it's been 2 years. We started in the UK, in London, and then very quickly we realized that our customers were like pretty more global and pan-European. So we are live in 18 countries, but I will caveat that a lot of these countries we only have 1 or 2 customers, but we can expand very quickly with them. We manage around like 15,000 vehicles. Last year we were managing around 2,000. Wow. So it's been like a good...
I know when I met you, it was pretty small, but quite rapid growth.
Exactly. And there is the need for more, and that's the beauty. And we're very focused on the light electric vehicle market, like e-bikes, cargo bikes, e-mopeds. And now we're starting to transition a little bit more into like cars, vans, and like a wider mix, because that's a reality. That's what we hear from our customers. They need the full range of vehicles. Right.
That's amazing. And how's like, when you look at your life, right, in a day or in a month, how much time is going into building the startup? How much time is going into, networking? I mean, how do you compartmentalize your day as a founder? And then there should be fun, right? That's your third parameter in the team also. How do you compartmentalize life?
I think it gets very hybrid. I don't know about you, but like...
I'd love to know.
Work and fun and life, it's starting to become all the same. And that's why, like, for us, it's very important to have fun as a main value, because the majority of the things that we do are related to work. Yeah. So let's have fun while we do all these things. In my personal life, it's more like I love what I do every morning. I wake up super excited about like what I'm going to be doing today, what are we going to be solving. So it doesn't feel like work. But it's true that more and more and more I'm starting to like push myself to, for example, be here in India, right, for like a couple of weeks to like really release, to like get that perspective. Then you come back like so refreshed, and not only to me but also to the team. I'm starting to pushing them like, let's make sure that you have your holidays, that you disconnect, because you come back so recharged and you should see things in different perspective. On my day to day, how do I split my days? It depends, right? Like when I'm fundraising, it's all about fundraising. But when fundraising is out of the thing, I will say that probably I spend 40% of my time selling. And
you're the sales guy also?
Not really. I have a salesperson.
But founders and CEOs have to be the sales guy.
That's what I learned. Yeah. That's what I'm a product guy. I love product. I'm a product guy. Nice. And I love to spend all the time at product. That's where I'm enjoying, like when I can get a whiteboard and start like dreaming and like, we're going to build this in that way. Yeah. But the reality is that the founder sells. Sure. Like if the founder is in the call, that deal has like probably 60% more chances on being close. So I had to accept that my future is looking like that 30-40% of my time I need to be selling. I also realized that one of the best ways to influence your product roadmap is understanding your customers, and the best way to understand your customers and your market is selling. Right? Because if you're in the front line, if you're talking to your customers, you know exactly what you need to build and why do you need to build different things. So that's why I say like 30-40% of my time is about selling. Then I'll say that like probably 10% is on product, very, very little, a lot less than I like to. And the rest is like doing my CEO job. And when I think about being a CEO, for me, I have 3 main things that I should be doing. The first one is never run out of money, right? So bring money in the table. That's the first priority. The second one for me is about making sure that you bring the right direction to the company and you build the right culture, right? But making sure that's the main thing. Like if you don't bring the right direction and you keep like repeating yourself of like, where are we going, why are we going there, that's my responsibility. And then the third one is about hiring the best people and retaining the best people. If I do these 3 things well, I'm doing my CEO job. But then on top I need to sell, and on top I need to do some product.
Yeah, I mean you have to do everything from that lens. You're always looking at each and everything. But that's so rightly put. Basically, if you're doing these 3 things right, and you have a team to manage the rest, you're sorted as a company.
Exactly.
Which is great to know. And how's been fundraising after? I got your first one, but you then got into the funding winter. And I think when we met in Vegas, you were raising funds and you're still almost there. But I'd love to know that how easy it is and what's the process of fundraising for you when you're a company in London, right? Are there enough investors there, or you go to the US or you go to Southeast Asia? How's the fundraising climate like? And
Now or before?
around the last 1 year.
Okay. I'll say that you have more than enough investors in Europe to be able to close a successful round. But I think that, as you know, investment, like fundraising, is a numbers game, right? And like the more people you speak, the more chances you have. I think the market has evolved a lot, and now you really need to prove that you're a real company. The data room that we built for our last fundraising, it's been pretty extensive and like very thorough. And what we've seen is like funds looking a lot deeper into the numbers, not only like the founder telling the story and like the ambition. That's like a hard requirement, but if you don't like check the other boxes about the numbers, you're gonna struggle. I'm actually seeing a lot of my founder friends in Europe struggling to raise funds. And yeah, like, again, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I think that if you have a real business with the right numbers supporting that business, you have more than enough good funds in Europe to be able to fundraise. We spoke with some funds in the US as well, because it's always good to add a little bit of competition into the market. And I have not really went away from like Europe and the US, because with those two markets, we had more than enough. I don't want to disclose so much about like the status of that funding round, but it's going pretty successfully. And the only thing I'll say is that we spoke with a lot of funds, and we've seen a lot of different approach. And I'll say something that maybe it's going to be a little bit controversial, but I think any founder knows that at the end you just need one term sheet, right? And you pitch to as many people as possible, but you don't do it like crazy. Like the way how I do fundraising always is very strategic. Like I take more time preparing than not actually pitching. Like I prepare very well the data room, the pitch deck, the story, the narrative, and then I usually do like a dry test with existing investors, with people that I trust, and then I do a week test with like not the best funds that I want to raise, but like maybe like the less attractive funds for me, to see like what's the response. Are they getting very excited, or are they coming back to me like, oh, what about this, what about that? And I start building an FAQ, I start iterating those materials, they are very alive, and then when I feel that I'm ready, that I pitch a fund and they say like, oh, I love it, then I go to my top 5, 10, and I target all of them on Monday, like in the same day, and I never reach out directly. I always get like, I look into like my dream list, I have like different founders, different like, always an introduction from another founder is the best type of introductions. But I basically send this list of like dream VCs into my network. I ask like, who do you know? I get, when I have everyone with a contact, that's when, and I'm ready to pitch with the material, that's when I ask all the different contacts the same day. I want an introduction Monday 8 a.m. and then Monday 8 a.m. there is like 15 introductions that happen, and that's when the fun starts. And then basically you have it very compressed, right? The market talks, and like they talk to each other, and if they all talk, oh, I'm talking with them, you start building that FOMO, and FOMO is important for fundraising.
Very amazing way that you do fundraise, man. This is a masterclass for a lot of people, how to do fundraise, right? The warm calling, the founder connect, and then reaching out at the same time, and then building that FOMO. Amazing.
You have one chance, right? Because the market talks. Like when you go into the market, you need to be extremely well prepared, and you need to be very strategic. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see from a lot of first-time founders, that they start, but you need to build that momentum. For me, it's like when I start, I know that in 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I need to have a term sheet. I need to close it. And then when you have a term sheet, everything changes.
And what if after 4 weeks you still do not have a term sheet? How does Santi feel? It will never happen. What if that happens?
I reach out to 20 more people. 20 more. Like the beauty is that between like Europe, US, Asia, like you have so many funds at the moment that like you can build a huge list, you know?
That's true. I mean, funds are so many, but I think it's the strategy and the back work.
Absolutely.
You talked a lot about Dataroom. I think a lot of people who are watching, listening, do not know what should be there in the data room, right? We've talked a lot about pitch decks. We've talked a lot about cold emails. But do you want to talk a little bit about that so that founders get a little more aware?
Sure. I think data rooms change a lot depending on the stage that you are, right? Like on a pre-seed, if someone is asking me for like a full financial model for the next 5 years, I will say like that's probably not the right investor for us, because like we just started and we don't know how things are going to evolve, right? Like I can give you 2 years if you want. But with this being said, for a pre-seed round, probably the pitch deck is like the most important thing, and having a little bit of like a TAM or like a market analysis, like the total addressable market, like how big is this opportunity, right? I think with these two and a basic P&L of like how a potential business looks like in the next 2 years, that's good enough. For like more a seed business, like what we did now, I think that's when it gets a little bit more extensive, and depending as well like how difficult the market is. As I said, when I was at GoPuff or Dija, we raised 20 million in a week with not even a deck, with like we had a P&L. Yeah. But the more prepared you are, the better. For me, a good data room at seed stage is like an amazing pitch deck that explains the story, right? With probably like a full version and a teaser to share before. Then you have like the TAM analysis, the total addressable market, to show how big is the market. Right. Then you have a P&L probably for the next 3 years with like very focused on top line and bottom line. And then probably you have like an FAQ while you start fundraising, what we do is like every time that someone asks a relevant question, we put it into this FAQ, and then we keep adding, right? So people like, it's like clarifying all these small doubts. And then the rest of the things, it's very much depending on the business. So for example, on our side, because we're a software company, we have as well like a product page where we show a little bit the product, or there's like a link with a product demo. But think about it in terms of like all the materials that can support your narrative and that can make that investor more confident to make the investment on your company.
So important, guys, on Dataroom, right? I think a lot of people don't know what this really helps, right?
It's key. It's key. And one recommendation I will say is like make it scalable, you know, like make a data room that it's very scalable, because otherwise it feels like a lot of work, and it's a lot of work. Correct. But first it helps your business. Yeah. Like when we're doing fundraising and we're building a data room, then we share that data room with the rest of the company, and it's like part of our strategy, you know. And the second one, like if you put the effort at the beginning, you can share that same data room with everyone. Otherwise, you're going to start speaking with different investors, and one is going to ask you this question, the other one is going to ask you that question, the other one is going to ask you that question. You'll be all over the place. And with a scalable data room, I managed to talk with more than 20 fans at the same time, right? Because I have a very simple Google Drive that I make a copy and I send to the new investor I'm talking, and everything is very scalable. That's right.
No, that makes sense. It brings the organized path towards fundraising, which is very important, and also builds the organization objective together, which is great. By the way, there's some, snacks waiting for you. Yeah. Now, I think I would love to know more about what is Santi as a person, right? Where is he wanting to head? What is he looking for? Why is he building a startup?
Good. Santi is a very fun and energetic person. I love to travel. I'm very curious. I love to learn about anything. I'm very passionate about people and like getting to know people and building those relationships. Why I'm building this startup is because, as I said, like it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun, and it's my ikigai. It's like what I like, what I'm good at, and the impact that I can have is like it's very clear to me. On more like personal reasons, like I'm not really looking to I'm not optimizing for an exit or to be a millionaire. I'm really optimizing of like how every day I can have fun doing what I like, and I can also have that flexibility and that different lifestyle. Like I very much don't like corporate offices and like wearing a suit. So I like to be feeling like I'm surrounded by friends, building a company, and then outside of work, basically, what I do is mainly sports. Like, I love extreme sports. I'm very addicted to kite surfing. I travel the world for that. I really like motorbikes. I'm doing that trip now in Himalayas for like a week, so I'm very excited. Wow. It's always like a little bit of extreme sports. Maybe I'm a little bit of adrenaline junkie, and then having fun. Like, you know, like when we went to Las Vegas, correct? We were working, right? Like, we were doing a panel, and like it had that impact. I don't know about you, but I managed to get a couple of customers from there. But then we had a lot of fun as well, and that's for me the beauty of like being a founder, or like having a startup, or even working in a startup. Because when I was at Deliveroo, I was not the founder, but I was going to Paris, to Italy, and I was working during the day, but during the evening I was having a lot of fun with the people around there.
No, that's how life should be, right? By the way, I love your shirt with the elephants on it and the green color.
Voted yesterday.
Yesterday from where in Delhi, and how?
It was a bazaar next to the Lotus Park.
Okay, the Lotus Park.
Dalcraft or something like that. I don't even know the name.
Sure. How are you finding India, by the way? What's good? What's ugly? What's bad?
I'm loving it. You know, like, it's been interesting because a lot of people has put some fear on me, or like, oh, you're gonna get stressed, like there is so much noises, so many people around, the smells, or like I brought face masks, and no, I don't need any of this. Like, I'm really like going with the flow. It's definitely intense and hectic, but I love that. I love intense and hectic. I'm so impressed. Like, so far I've been mainly visiting temples, but like the whole thing about religion, and like how all these different religions are in the same place, and like all this culture. And today I was like just going around Lodi Road, and it's insane that you guys have a park, and then in the middle of the park you have like those ancient monuments there in the middle. And I saw all these like Indian couples like having these romantic moments in the evening. So I was like, wow, I wish I can like have this as a date plan, you know?
But you guys do that during this in the streets, right? You guys,
yeah, but we don't have like ancient monuments next to us, you know? I love to be like, to bring my girlfriend and like go and sit in front of an ancient monument to have a romantic plan. And I was like, I'm here on my own exploring. I find it fascinating. And then the food is another level.
Yeah, you liked it?
I love it.
The spices and all?
I love it. I really like it.
No, I went to a similar place in Barcelona called some Choco Beach or something. And I could see people do the same what they did here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's what you always want, what you don't have. And
no, but Barcelona was very much a lot of Indians were there when I was there a few years back now, right? And I think all the shops were run by Indians, and all the cabs were run by Indians, and all the...
The only thing I'll say is, like, I don't know how you guys deal with this heat. Which the heat, the hot, like the like... I've been sweating. I'm gonna be able to eat a lot and lose weight, so it's good news.
That's good for you, actually, man. Nice. And I think I have seen a lot of wisdom, to be very frank. Let me tell you, you're a first generation entrepreneur yourself, right? Mm-hmm. While you worked in startups, right? What is the source of knowledge? How do you acquire the knowledge about building startups, right? You seem to talk everything which makes sense, right? But you must be learning it from somewhere.
I think it's experiences. Like, talk about that. I read a little bit, but not a lot. I'll say a lot of people like feed themselves with books, and I think it's a great resource. And I love to be like reading more. By the way, I'm gonna share a great book. It's called The Great CEO Within. Have you read that one?
I think I have.
Yeah.
I have. I've known about it.
Okay, I think
The Great CEO Within. You've read it?
I'm reading it. That's what happens to me. That I read 60% of the books. You know, like I start, I get 4 chapters, I get bored, next one. But yeah, that's one of the best ones. But the real knowledge for me, it's about experiences, like these 10 years in startups, these like networking with founders, like the conversations that we can have in an evening, like, you know, I enjoy to talk about these things. I go deep, and when another founder share their experience, how do they manage KPIs, how do they do goal setting, how do they do that, there is always some things that remarks you a lot. And I'll say that that's one of the biggest advantage of like being in a city like London, that if you really want to expose yourself for knowledge and wisdom, you can meet insane founders that have been extremely successful or that they had like different journeys and absorb from them.
How?
Like there is a lot of events, there is a lot of meetups, there is a lot of like venture capital, like VCs organize a lot of events as well. But I think that you slowly build your network. But I always been like, I work in startups that have been successful and startups that failed, and a lot of different startups, and I always been very interested on like meeting the network and the founders, so I build that network. If I have the opportunity to go to an event, I always say yes. So that's where like I get my main inspiration and my main source, more than books or anything else.
Which is networking.
Network.
Essentially meeting people, talking to them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that I see people fearing is when they enter into a room, which is like a networking event, and they don't know what to do. Anything that you want to tell on how to address entering into a room full of founders for youngsters to kind of learn? Because I know that you are a power networker, but I would want to know, I think that's some of the things that you've built over life. But let's say I do not want to, I don't know much. What should I do? How do I attack?
Yeah, I think that people values more you asking a dumb question than not asking a question. And there is so many people that gets that is scared about like raising their voice. But the reality is that you only realize when you start like interacting that first in your domain, you're probably the most expert that exists. And that's why you're becoming an expert on that.
True.
So that's the first thing, like no one knows better on what you're building.
Yeah.
Depends on your journey, right? But like if you're doing it in the right way. The second one, like no one is gonna call you off for asking a dumb question. And they will remember you at least that you ask a question, you know?
That's right.
And you will see that probably you don't ask dumb questions, but as soon as you ask a question, as soon as you get involved, people is nice. Like we're humans, you know, and I don't know, I always really enjoy anyone that has the attitude and that is pushing themselves forward, and it just takes asking a question. Like I always think about it, like you go to a network event and you can make it as worth as you want. You can go there, have a couple of beers and meet very few people and not have learned anything. Or you can go there, not even have a couple of beers and talking all the time and introducing yourself. And it takes like, one thing is about in a group, but like if there is like the moment of networking, it literally takes two things, right? Hey, how are you? Like that's all it takes. And then the conversation starts flowing, and it can be a good fit, it can be not a good fit, and you can ask questions and you can get answers, you know?
So just go ahead. Hey, how are you?
What's the downside, right? What can happen to you?
Yeah.
You're gonna die? No. Are you gonna like, do you have to pay money? No, it's free. Like ask a question.
Correct.
All I can tell you is like, oh, I don't have time for you. Okay, thank you. You ask to the next person.
Go. Ask.
Yeah.
Lovely. And that's again a power advice to all the people who do not know what to do entering into a room. Just leave your inhibitions.
Absolutely. And I think that once you get started, once you have that first relationship, that first good reaction, that you asked that question and then you had an amazing chat and you had some learnings and then you built a friend and you built a relationship. Look at us, right? Like we met in Las Vegas, I live in London, you live in Delhi, and now we're together doing a podcast. It's fantastic.
That's actually, this just, you know, we would have said hi to each other and that's how we connected, right? Yeah. Actually.
We had a lot of fun already.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the fun in Vegas here. This is my part.
They say that the Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Whatever happens there.
Exactly. Now, what are the few things I think, that you want to tell that these are a few tenets which are good to be a founder?
What do you mean? Like,
what should I have to become a successful founder in that sense? I'm wanting to start up. I'm working in a job, or I'm, wanting to fight the family and start up, but I'm not getting convinced as a person. What should I have?
I think being a founder is not for everyone. And that may be controversial, But first, you need to be very ambitious. You need to be, I think, very optimistic. You probably need to be a little bit naive. You need to believe things that others don't believe, that are possible. And again, you need to have a real problem that you're in love. That's for me the key thing. Like if you don't have a real problem that you're in love, don't start a company until you find that. And if you really want to be a founder, focus your time on finding that problem that you are in love. And that is a real problem, a big problem, and you are in love. For me, if these two things are not there, I don't wish anyone to be a founder, because the journey is very tough. But that's what I'll say, like maybe to put it back together. Yeah. Ambitious people, a little bit naive, very optimistic, and with a real problem that they are in love.
That's true. Because there'll be failures on the way. So I think one of the things that I want to add there is that be ready to fail and commit a long term, right? Don't just think and grow rich. It's not think and grow rich.
But I think that it also changed you, right? Because like you see so much failure so often that I don't know about you, but every day is easier to handle failure. Like, and then it applies to your real life. Like when you're traveling, where a lot of people see problems, I just see opportunities. You know, and I think that's the point of being optimistic and a bit naive. You know, like when you're optimistic and naive, you move forward. That's right. You believe that things will happen. Correct. You always have like that. Like a lot of people say, like, "Oh, I'm lucky." Well, you make yourself lucky, you know, like you look at that like there is a lot of times that you have two options, the safe option, the more risky option, and we don't take the risky option because we're scared about the failure. As a founder, you are not scared about failure. You take failure as a learning. So I always take the risky option, and I know that I will have a lot more fun. I will learn, and if I get successful, I will get a lot more successful.
That's right. How do you invest your capital, man? I'd love to know, like in that part of the world, are there some investment apps or there's real estate? I mean, what are the ways to invest?
I'll say that I'm a first-time founder, so I still don't have a lot of capital. But as a culture, yeah. As a consumer investor and as a cultural investment, yeah, there is apps there, like similar to Robinhood in the States. In the UK, we use Free Trade. There is also like some schemes and incentives that make things easy, like the ESA, that you get like £20,000 a year free tax to invest. So you don't pay capital gains. On my case, basically, I do two types of investments, very boring and simple. One is the classic SP 500, the index, very simple, like put some money there. I played with cryptos and it didn't end well, so that's definitely out of my life. The other investment I do is on startups. Like,
oh, you do?
Yeah, but more for fun. Like, I think now I made a good investment that they just raised another round, and OpenAI just got them on board to do some stuff. So maybe that will be, but I think I did like 10 to 15 small tickets on startups. I think that 7 are already like gone.
7 are gone?
7 are gone, so I'm definitely not being super successful yet, but I just do it mainly for like the journey, like supporting the founder, following the founder. But yeah, I'd say that investment for fun, to help people, very, very small tickets, very small, ridiculously small. And then
just a pat on the back, want to be part of your journey.
A little bit of like SP 500, and maybe 1-2 companies that I got NVIDIA, like just very, very small. I don't have much time either to invest the money.
Absolutely, great. You're an adventure junkie, right? Which is the the junkiest of them all, if you can share.
On what I do?
Yeah, in your adventures, on your trips, the wildest thing that you would have done.
I'll say like the classic jumping out of the plane.
Oh, you've done that?
Yeah. But I think where I have more fun is with kite surfing. Like now I'm pulling good big jumps, and that feels really, really, really good.
Kite surfing?
Yeah, kite surfing, or like surfing on big waves, like big waves that if you get down, and you feel it. I'll say that those are the ones that they give me the more intense feeling, for sure.
Wow, awesome. Love, power, money. What excites you more?
Say love. And it seems like very... Well, what love means in this question?
Okay. No, love is real love,
It's just with your partner? It's with everyone?
More with people who you want love from.
Definitely love.
Yeah? Okay. Are you married, single?
I'm not married. Yeah, I'm single.
Stay yourself safe in India. Or girls be safe out of Santi in India. That'll be the better one.
Definitely like pretty chill on that side at the moment. Getting a lot of love from friends and family and like people I have around. That's the type of love I'm really optimizing for at this stage.
Obviously. And how does the family feel now? How does your dad feel about your startup and stuff?
It's been interesting, because for a while they didn't hear much from me.
Because you left Barcelona. They're still in Barcelona?
Yeah, I left 8 years ago to get into the startup life, and then it's been a tough journey. Like it's been a lot of like being with myself, pushing myself, growing. But I missed a lot of like birthday parties, a lot of like family things, right? So definitely at the beginning was a bit tough. Mainly when I started this startup because it was so intense that I disappeared from the world, and that's not good. That's one of the things that if I could change something since starting the startup is not have been so obsessed at the beginning that I was disconnecting from my families, from my friends, and just like being obsessed about the startup. Not great. Mm-hmm. Now, after like a year and a half, 2 years, with some help from coaches and people around, right, you realize, hey, actually you can balance things out, and it feels better. Mm-hmm. So I think they feel it as well. Like I'm a lot more closer to them, and it's much better. Like I always love them, but you get obsessed. Time is the more you realize very quickly when you start that time is becoming your biggest asset, right? And at the end we can make so many excuses like, oh, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, but you manage your time with whatever you want. And I'll say don't sacrifice time for yourself, neither for your family, because it's worth. So I'm very good with them. I very close at the moment, but definitely probably the first year of building the startup, I disconnected from everywhere and I just was obsessed with the startup, and it's not great.
No, I can imagine, but I think possibly for that time it was the right thing to do, which you regret, but...
Yeah, I think I could have done it differently.
Sure.
How much time it takes to call your mom on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? It's nothing.
No, makes sense. I think this is intense, and I appreciate you sharing that here. But great, Santi. I think I learned a lot, and you're such an amazing individual building an interesting EV startup, right? Which I don't see a lot of people doing globally. By the way, can you share a little bit of EV landscape out in London, just to kind of have closing comments? How do you see that picking up? What's the percentage like, and what do you see today and going where?
Yeah, I think in Europe at the moment, commercial fleets, so fleets to use for a commercial purpose. So that's not like consumer fleets. This is like companies that do logistics, like anything like that. I think it's around like, I need to check the numbers, but around like between 15 to 10% as a percentage. The penetration, yeah. Wow. I think it's very small. Yeah. By 2030, I think they moved the goal set to 2035. Mm-hmm. Entire Europe is banning the sale of petrol vehicles. Wow. And we're not prepared. Like the biggest number one barrier is charging infrastructure, and that's why like we're seeing like this cargo bike, e-bikes, e-mopeds segment being the fastest growth segment,
because you don't need an infrastructure.
Yeah, you can plug it anywhere, right? It's much simple. We're seeing the big logistics companies to really start putting serious attention and serious focus, like hiring like electrification experts or like people really to start to work into that, making big commitments into the board. And I'll say that at least, I don't know the Asian market so well, but I'm seeing like quite a lot of developments. But I think US is very behind. Like when I look, Europe is moving as fast as we can, but we're pretty slow because it's only like 10 to 15% penetration. The US is 5 years behind. So
Europe is ahead of US?
By far. I think in the US, everything needs to make commercially sense. In Europe, people is willing to sacrifice a little bit the unit economics to
sustainability.
Yeah, and sustainability is something that the European consumer is valuing more and more. So even the consumer is starting to willing to pay a premium.
Really?
Yeah, for sustainable options. Very small advance there, but starting to happen.
Really? But because when I was in London and I booked an Uber was usually, an EV was slightly cheaper than the petrol one.
Great.
Yeah, that's what I saw. But you're saying that people are ready to pay the premium.
Yeah.
Now it's changing.
We're starting to see, but very, very small increments there. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the consumer is starting to be a lot more conscious about the sustainability element on everything that they consume and they shop. And companies are starting to realize this, and it's being like this a little bit of a flywheel where we're seeing a little bit of activation, but we're still very behind, and it's a lot slower that I imagine or that I wish. But definitely like speaking up.
Awesome, man. And who are your best founder buddies?
People that I share time with. I'd say like the founder of Orchestra, the company I used to work with. They're still there, battling. Things are going pretty well for them, but that's definitely one of the founders that give me really good advice. Who else? Then I have the guys from Rodeo. It's another company that started at the same time as us.
Rodeo.
Yeah, do you know it?
Okay, no. Rodeo I know, but this is something else. Yeah.
Work with like gig riders, and then who else? I actually talk with so many founders.
Deliveroo.
The Will Show at Deliveroo, we still close. We don't talk so often. He's too busy. But yeah, I'll say more like people in my stage, people from the portfolios, from the VCs. That's one of the best sources as well. Like that's one of the things that I like from having venture capital money, is that you have this portfolio of founders, right? That this venture capital invested on, and I go to a lot of network events with them, and that's where like I get a lot of insights, and you build those relationships well.
Awesome, Santi. I think it was great to learn so much from you, and great to get your perspective from London for Indians, and I'm sure it's very similar. I thought that there'll be a lot of different learnings that'll come out, but I think as a founder, the journey is same everywhere.
How do you see it? I don't know.
Please, if you want to ask anything to me, I'm happy to, possibly as a closing.
As a summary, like I don't know the Indian ecosystem for founders, startups, fundraising, after what I mentioned to you today, how different it is.
No, I think what you shared is exactly something, if someone follows that in India, they can build a great company. But I think people do not know the nuts and bolts of these things that you spoke of, which is what is slightly tricky, right? How to network with people, how to, reach out to investors, how to, build a data room, what are the few things to hire people? I think those are things that you talked so well about, which are the nuts and bolts for people to follow. And they're same in India. You can falter in all of these and you can fail, but you can kind of perfect and be open to, experiment and tweak yourself into these directions, and you can build a great company.
Do you have a good venture capital?
A lot of them, a lot of VCs in India.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's crazy in that sense, but you need to know the trick to reach out to them. You need to be open to accepting their feedback and tweaking your strategy.
It's a relationship thing at the end, right?
It's a relationship. You got to build early. And then use it at the right time. Yeah. So same fundamentals, by the way, which is great that I learned, by the way. And so good to be, speaking with you in India while we were in Vegas together, and look forward to possibly in Barcelona or London or Vegas next time.
Yeah, it's your home. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
And enjoy your Agra, Varanasi, Delhi, Leh Ladakh, anywhere else?
No, I think that's...
I'd love a photo log on this, and I'd love to attach it after the podcast.
Sure, I will send you some.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
तो दोस्तों, मजा आया ना इस पॉडकास्ट में? शांति ने जो ज्ञान दिया, वो प्रॉपर ज्ञान था फॉर एनी फाउंडर टू स्टार्ट अ कंपनी. क्या देखना है आपको टीम में, कैसे रीच आउट करना है फंड्स को, क्या इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें हैं जो एक फाउंडर को ध्यान रखनी चाहिए. एवरीथिंग इज कवर्ड. इट्स जस्ट दैट ही इज कमिंग फ्रॉम आउटसाइड, बट I feel that startups are so much similar globally. So dive right in, and just subscribe to this podcast and share it with everyone who wants to build a startup, because इससे better मुझे नहीं लगता आपको ज्ञान मिलेगा कहीं और. And हाँ, comment में लिखो कैसा लगा, which is the section of the podcast that you love the most. Put it in the comments. Thank you.